Captain Walker felt a chill as the survey shuttle touched down on the silent surface. The world below was gray and lifeless, its skies filled with ash. He led his small team across the cracked landing pad toward the metal doors of the long-abandoned station. Each step echoed in the empty halls as they entered, flashlights cutting through the darkness. Metal walls bore scorch marks and pitted dents. Panels hung loose, wires trailed like vines through corridors. The air smelled of rust and oil. Despite the decay, technology hummed faintly somewhere deep inside. Dr. Riley, the ship's chief scientist, moved ahead to inspect a broken console. "This station once belonged to the Archaeal Empire," she said, voice low. "They vanished centuries ago. Nobody expected to find their outposts still active." Walker nodded. The Empire had ruled half the galaxy before they disappeared in a great war. No one knew why or how. Now here was proof that at least one station survived. They descended a ramp into the central chamber. A circular room opened around them, its ceiling high and domed. In the center stood a single figure. Heavy armor covered the body from head to toe. The suit was unlike anything they had seen. It had no joints or seams. It was smooth and dark, with faint lines that pulsed like slow heartbeat. Layers of metal plated the form as if grown rather than forged. No weapon hung at the waist. No emblem marked the chest. It stood lifeless, like a statue guarding some secret. "It must have been built to protect someone very important," Walker said. "Whoever was inside would be safe from any threat." Dr. Riley circled the figure, examining panels along the back. She placed her palm against its shoulder. "This alloy, it adapts to force, tougher than any human armor. The Archaeal mastered materials we still do not understand." The team set to work. Engineers rigged lifting cables. They would bring the armored figure to their ship for further study. As they secured cables to the shoulders, the pulsing lines brightened. Everyone froze. The lines glowed brighter, then faded. Walker stepped forward. He placed a hand on the breastplate. The moment his fingers touched the metal, there was a shudder. The armor hummed. The lines flickered like candlelight. With a soft crack, segments of the suit telescoped inward. Plate by plate, the armor parted along invisible seams. Panels slid aside as if alive, revealing the form beneath. Walker backed away with the rest of the team, surprised by the swift motion. The empty shell collapsed inward until nothing remained but a simple frame. Dr. Riley frowned at the pile of metal on the floor. "What happened?" she whispered. Walker ignored the question. He raised his flashlight to the open chamber. A girl lay on a raised platform where the armor once stood. She blinked up at them, hair dark and tangled, face pale from long confinement. Her eyes were wide and unafraid. She wore simple cloth beneath the armor, a linen shift marked by dust and age. She pushed herself up, looking at Walker with a calm strength. "You freed me," she said softly, her voice steady despite her confinement. Her words seemed ancient and heavy, yet her tone held something innocent. "I've waited a long time." Dr. Riley knelt beside the girl. "What is your name?" she asked gently. The girl touched her forehead, blinking again. "Arya," she answered. "Arya Solon." Her words hung in the cold air. Walker stepped forward. "We are humans. I am Captain Ethan Walker. We mean no harm." Arya studied him, then nodded. She slid off the platform and stood. Her limbs were thin from years without movement, but her posture was proud. She looked around the chamber, curiosity and relief mingling in her gaze. "The Empire fell," she said. "They sealed me here to save me from the Conqueror." Her words came in soft bursts. "I was a child when they bound me in the armor. It held me safe, but it also trapped me. I did not know time. I did not know fear." Walker felt a knot. In his chest, a young air sealed away for centuries. The weight of history pressed on him. "We will help you," he said. "You are safe now." Arya's face flickered with something like hope. She followed them quietly as they prepared to leave. Engineers collected the discarded plates of armor, carefully stowing them for study. Dr. Riley set up sensors around Arya. They measured her vital signs. Her heart beat strong, her breath steady. She was alive. On the shuttle ride back to Walker's ship, Arya sat on a metal bench. She watched the gray world recede. She had never seen stars. The shuttle's windshield revealed a sky full of lights. She gasped. "Stars," she whispered. "I forgot the stars." Walker smiled. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You will see many stars now." Once aboard the flagship Horizon, Arya met the crew. Engineers brought her a warm blanket. Medics offered water and a simple meal. She ate slowly, savoring each bite. She asked about the galaxy beyond the station. Her questions were innocent and full of wonder. Dr. Riley showed her star charts. Arya traced paths with her finger. She pointed to human space. "I can go there," she asked. Walker nodded. "We will take you home," he said. Arya closed her eyes at the word home. She did not know where home was now. Her empire was gone. Her family, all gone. But she felt something stir inside, a longing to belong. The crew treated her with respect. She felt kindness for the first time in centuries. In his quarters, Walker studied the station logs. They told of a war long past. Sealed her in living armor to hide her from the Conqueror. The armor was alive, bonded to her skin, could not open without the rightful touch. They locked her away on this station, telling her she would be safe until the war ended. But the war never ended. The Conqueror fell to other foes. Arya slept, sealed in armor, forgotten by time. Walker stood by the viewport, watching the dead worlds shrink behind them. Arya sat nearby, her head resting on her hand as she gazed at the stars. Walker wondered how she would adapt. Would she embrace her new life? Could she learn to trust these humans who had freed her? Arya looked at him and smiled, as if sharing his thoughts. The moment felt like a promise. Two souls freed from the past, one from isolation, one from doubt. The horizon would carry them forward into the unknown. Together, they would face whatever came next. And Arya, once sealed in armor since childhood, would discover a life beyond the plates and pulsing lines. Life of hope, belonging, and new beginnings. Arya woke to the soft hum of the flagship's engines. Light filtered through a small viewport above her bunk. She sat up slowly, muscles stiff from long sleep. Dr. Riley stood nearby, offering a cup of warm broth. Arya took it with both hands and breathed in the steam. The taste was strange, but comforting. She sipped carefully, learning new flavors she had never known. After her meal, Arya followed Riley into the training bay. The room was wide and bright, with metal floors and padded walls. Machines hummed, ready to guide her first lessons. A line of Marines waited to help. Each offered a nod of welcome. Arya's heart fluttered. She had never trained alongside others. The armor she wore as a child had done everything for her. Now she would learn her own strength. The instructor showed Arya simple exercises. First, basic stance and balance. Arya spread her feet and bent her knees. Her body wobbled at first. Marines caught her arms to steady her. She laughed softly, surprised by her own laughter. The sound echoed warmly in the bay. Then she practiced punches and blocks. Her limbs were thin but quick. Each movement felt new, like a dance she had never known. Next came the weapon drills. The Marines handed Arya a light rifle. Its weight surprised her. She pressed it against her shoulder and aimed at a target. The instructor guided her sight. Arya squeezed the trigger. Soft clicks sounded. No shot fired until she learned the safety. She smiled at the empty report. Each click taught her control. She realized she could choose when to use force. During a break, Arya walked the corridors of the ship. She ran her fingers along smooth walls. Every panel told of human craft and design. She paused at a window to stare at passing stars. They glittered like distant fires. She felt both small and alive. A Marine officer passed and offered a wave. Arya returned it, her smile shy but genuine. She had not known kindness could feel so simple. Later, Arya met the bridge crew. Consoles glowed with data streams. Technicians moved with purpose. Arya watched each display, curious. They explained navigation and communication. She learned how the ship spoke to faster-than-light drives. Each term was new, each concept a mystery. But she listened with wonder. She asked questions in clear tones. The crew answered patiently, sharing their knowledge. She felt like a student, hungry for every detail. In her bunk that night, Arya held a small keepsake, a metal locket etched with a fading crest. Inside was a portrait of her parents, young and hopeful. Tears blurred her vision. She pressed the locket to her chest. She whispered a promise to remember them, then she tucked it beside her pillow. Dreams came slow and gentle. For the first time, she let herself rest. The next morning, Arya joined Captain Walker for breakfast in the mess hall. Trays of food lined long tables. Aroma of fresh bread and brewed coffee filled the air. Arya selected a slice of fruit and a cup of juice. Walker sat across from her, studying a star chart. He pointed to a bright cluster. "That is the Vega system," he said. "Pass near it soon." Arya's eyes lit up. How she traced the dots. With her finger? "I want to see planets," she said softly. Walker smiled. "You will," he promised. "We will explore together." Arya nodded, feeling excitement bloom. She finished her meal and hurried to prepare for the day's mission, a walk in the observation deck. Transparent panels arched above her. She stepped onto a narrow catwalk, heart pounding at the view. Endless space stretched around them. She placed her hand against the glass. A tear slid down her cheek. She breathed deep and laughed quietly with joy. Back in the training bay, Arya's lessons grew harder. She learned to handle small drones for target practice. They buzzed in the air like metal insects. She aimed and fired, drills guiding her. Aim. Each hit triggered a soft tone of success. Arya's confidence grew. She felt a spark of pride. This body surrendered to her will. She smiled at the instructor, who gave her a thumbs up. Over the following days, Arya's memories flickered. She recalled voices calling her name in a distant hall. She saw flashes of a royal ceremony, her parents at her side. Pain and longing mixed in her mind. She sought Dr. Riley's counsel. The scientist listened, placing a gentle hand on Arya's arm. "Memory can heal in time," Riley said. Arya nodded, comforted by human compassion. One afternoon, alarms sounded. Lights turned red. The ship rocked with sudden impact. Arya rushed to the bridge, heart racing. Walker called out orders. The ship was hit by debris from a passing asteroid cluster. Shields held, but instruments sparked. Arya moved to help technicians reroute power. She pressed console buttons as Riley had taught her. She felt strength in her hands and calm in her mind. The crisis passed quickly. The crew cheered. Walker placed a hand on Arya's shoulder. "You did well," he said. Arya's chest swelled with pride. She smiled at each crew member who met her gaze. They nodded their respect. She realized she belonged here now. She was no longer a sealed child. She stood free among humans who trusted her. In her quarters that night, Arya wrote in a small journal gifted by Riley. She recorded each lesson, each memory, each wonder. She wrote of stars and laughter, of food and friends. She wrote of hope. Then she closed the book and lay down. She gazed at the small viewport above her bed. Stars winked back at her. Arya closed her eyes with a peaceful smile, ready to face whatever tomorrow would bring. Arya stood by the viewport as dawn light crept across the observation deck. The gentle glow of nearby planets painted her face in soft hues. She had learned the names of many worlds on their journey, but each new sight still left her breathless. Today they passed a gas giant with swirling storms of green and blue. Arya pressed her palm to the glass, marveling at the dance of clouds below. She had never imagined worlds so alive. The quiet laugh she whispered, "I wish I could touch the wind there." After breakfast in the mess hall, Arya joined Dr. Riley and two engineers in the lab. They worked on the armor fragments from the station. The metal lay on a work table, dull and heavy. Arya watched as the engineers ran tests, probing the alloy with scanners. She asked questions in her soft voice. Dr. Riley explained how the lines in the metal responded to touch. Arya thought of the moment her armor fell away. She felt gratitude for the humans who freed her and curiosity about her own past. Later, Arya attended a history briefing on the bridge. Captain Walker stood before a hollow projection of the Archaeal Empire at its height. Towers reached into pink skies and ships filled the stars. Arya studied the image, feeling both pride and sorrow. She raised her hand. Walker nodded. "Your empire was great," she said, "but it also feared its own people." Her voice trembled with memory. The crew fell silent. "Arya's courage impressed them," she continued. "They bound me to protect me, but they forgot that I could learn to protect myself." Walker placed a hand on her shoulder. In the afternoon, Arya walked the ship's corridors alone. Each doorway brought new wonders. Hydroponic gardens with green leaves, a children's play area with simple toys, a small library of digital books. Arya paused at the garden. She picked a leaf and smelled its fresh scent. Years in armor had kept her from such life. Tears welled in her eyes. She tucked the leaf into her sleeve, a new treasure. She promised herself she would grow with this new world. That evening, Arya joined the Marines for a field exercise on a moon base. Metal doors opened onto a dusty plain. Mock targets dotted the landscape. Arya shrugged into lightweight gear and followed the squad. They moved with practiced steps, scanning the horizon. Arya lifted her rifle, aiming at the first target. She inhaled, aimed, and fired a single shot. The target spun on its pivot. Her heart pounded with triumph. Each Marine cheered her success. Arya felt a thrill she had never known while sealed. In armor, during the training, Arya's mind drifted to her childhood. She saw memory fragments, a garden under pink suns, laughter of her parents, gentle hands painting her face. She pressed her fingers to her temple, seeking comfort. The memory faded, and she returned to the present moment. A Marine offered her water. She drank gratefully, the cool liquid a gift. She smiled, grateful for this simple kindness. Back on the flagship, Arya met with the engineering chief. He showed her a shield generator that pulsed with blue energy. Arya recognized the concept. Adaptive defense, like her armor once was. She traced the patterns with her eyes. "This reminds me of home," she said. Engineer explained how. The system learned from attacks and grew stronger. Arya nodded, understanding the link. She offered suggestions based on her empire's designs. The engineer listened, impressed by her insight. Together they adjusted some parameters, improving efficiency by a small margin. That night, Walker invited Arya to his quarters for dinner. The table held simple dishes, roasted vegetables, fresh bread, and grilled fish. Arya sampled each with wonder. She savored new tastes, linking them in her mind to colors and stories. Walker asked about her dreams. Arya described her visions of shining cities and distant gardens. Walker listened quietly. Then he shared tales of Earth's own past, castles, explorers, and journeys to unknown seas. Arya listened, feeling kinship with these humans, who also reached for the stars. After dinner, they walked through the ship's courtyard. Artificial trees arched overhead, their leaves rustling in simulated breeze. Arya reached up to touch a leaf. Walker told her how the botanical team collected seeds from Earth and other worlds. Arya closed her eyes, inhaling the scent of pine. She felt peace and belonging. For the first time, she believed she could build a new life. A sudden alarm shattered the calm. Red lights flashed as the ship shuddered. Arya's heart raced. Walker grabbed her hand and ran for the bridge. Technicians shouted. A supply shuttle had exploded in the docking bay. Fire and debris threatened the hull. Arya followed Walker into action. She grabbed a fire suppression hose and helped clear debris. Smoke filled the corridor. Arya held the hose steady while Marines aimed foam at the fires. The bulkheads groaned under stress. Within minutes, they contained the blaze. Arya's chest heaved with adrenaline. After the danger passed, Walker looked at Arya with pride. "You were fearless," he said. Arya shook her head. "I was frightened," she admitted. "But I wanted to help." Walker smiled. "That makes you human," he said quietly. Arya blinked, moved by his words. She realized that trust and courage, not armor, defined a warrior. In her bunk that night, Arya opened her journal. She wrote of the day's events: training, discovery, dinner, and crisis. She recorded her feelings: wonder, sorrow, joy, and fear. Each word grounded her in this new life. She closed the journal and placed it beside her locket. She fell asleep to the ship's hum, dreams filled with memories old and new. Arya woke before dawn, mind restless with purpose. She rose and donned her training suit. She would continue learning, growing stronger in body and spirit. The armor of her past lay in pieces, but her future waited whole. With a steady breath, she stepped into the corridor and toward the deck where the next lesson awaited, ready to face whatever came next in her journey among the stars. Arya stood on the bridge beside Captain Walker as alarms rang through the ship. Red lights pulsed against the dark walls. Through the forward viewport, she saw them, a line of enemy warships cutting across the stars like dark blades. They moved together, engines flaring, ready for battle. Arya's heart pounded, but she stood tall. "We have 20 enemy vessels," the tactical officer reported. "They're closing fast." Walker's voice was calm. "All hands to battle stations," he ordered. The crew sprang into action. Marines sealed bulkheads. Engineers rerouted power to shields. Technicians loaded weapons. Arya moved to a console, her pulse steady. "Arya," Walker said, "can you help with their formation patterns?" Arya nodded. She studied the ship's positions. Memories stirred in her mind, goes of ancient battles she had seen in dreams. She pointed to a gap between two smaller vessels. "They will concentrate fire here," she said. "Our bow at 30 degrees? We can split their line." Walker looked at her, then at the helmsman. "Helm, adjust heading 30 degrees to port," he said. The ship shuddered as engines flared. Outside, the enemy shells missed by meters. Shields flared blue under the strain. Arya watched the tactical displays. She guided the weapons teams where to focus. "Target the lead cruiser's engines," she advised. Weapons officers locked on and fired. Bright streaks of light lanced out, hitting the cruiser. It shuddered and fell behind, but the fight was only starting. Enemy fighters swarmed the bay, small ships darting like hornets. The crew scrambled to meet them. Arya grabbed a headset. "Light fighters to escort gas turbine," she called. "Keep them clear." Squads of human fighters roared out of their bays. Plasma trails cut through space. They intercepted the swarm, trading shots. Arya turned as a blast rocked the bridge. A console sparked and smoked. A technician cried out, clutching his shoulder. Arya rushed over and helped him away. She wiped soot from his face. "Thank you," he whispered. Arya nodded and dashed back to the tactical station. Walker's voice cut through the chaos. "We need to break their line before they concentrate. Fire." Arya tapped the holomap. She saw an opening near a small asteroid field. "We can pull close to those rocks," she said. "Their sensors will lose track of us briefly. Maybe we can ambush the cruiser group." Walker nodded. "Execute Plan Gamma," he said. The ship changed course again, diving toward the field. The enemy cruisers followed, their guns blazing. Outside the viewport, meteors drifted in silence. The horizon glowed red as enemy lasers carved the blackness. The horizon shields flickered, but held firm. Arya's hands flew over the controls, guiding each shield generator's focus. She called out adjustments to the engineers. They responded, quickly, their faces determined. As they neared the field, the tactical officer reported, "Enemy formation breaking. They are slow to adjust." Arya saw their chance. "Fire broadside!" she shouted. Heavy weapons roared. Beams of energy ripped into the side of the closest cruiser. The ship flared and tumbled, its engines sputtering. More ships faltered. The enemy line fractured. Walker allowed a small smile. "Well done," he said softly to Arya. She blushed under his praise but kept her focus. "They are retreating," the communications officer announced. "All ships maintain pursuit formation." Arya watched the cruisers pull away. Enemy fighters scattered. Tension eased like a tide going out. In the quiet after the fight, the bridge crew exhaled. Technicians checked systems. Marines at stations relaxed their grips. Walker turned to Arya. "You saved us," he said. Arya shook her head. "We saved each other," she replied. The crew looked at her with respect and wonder. Later in the mess hall, the crew celebrated with simple cups of tea and bars of rationed chocolate. Arya sat among them, shy but smiling. Marines clapped her on the back. Engineers raised their cups to her. She giggled at their cheers. Dr. Riley joined her, handing her a warm loaf of bread. Arya bit into it gratefully, the taste filling her. With comfort, that night, Arya slipped away to the observation deck. The stars stretched endless around them. She touched the glass where a small crack ran from last night's battle. Her reflection stared back at her young, determined, and free. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply. The fight had tested her, but she had stood strong. Walker found her there. He handed her a cup of hot cocoa. Arya took it, warmth spreading through her fingers. Walker did not speak at first. Then he said, "You have more than armor. You have courage." Arya looked at him, tears shining in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. They stood side by side, watching the stars. Arya thought of her past of battlefields and her sealed armor. She thought of her future of friendship, honor, and trust. The horizon carried them forward now, past the wreckage and fear, into new adventures. Arya sipped her cocoa. The sweet liquid was strange and wonderful. She smiled at Walker. "I am ready for whatever comes next," she said. Walker nodded, eyes on the stars. Together, they turned back toward the bridge, where their journey would continue. ChatGPT said. Arya stepped off the ramp onto the surface of the hidden fortress planet. Dry wind stirred the red dust at her feet. She looked up at the stone walls that rose around them. The fortress had been abandoned long ago, but humans had restored it as a training and research center. Arches and towers stood silent against a pale sky. Banners with human and allied emblems fluttered in the breeze. Arya's heart fluttered with both awe and nervousness. Captain Walker led her through a large gate. Marines stood at attention on either side, their armor polished bright. They saluted Arya as she passed. She returned the salute, careful to keep her movements respectful. The humans here treated her like a peer, not a curiosity. She felt pride bloom in her chest. Dr. Riley joined them, holding a data pad. "Today we begin tests on your adaptive shield concept," she said. Arya nodded. "Look forward, Arya," replied quietly. Riley smiled. "Your design helped last battle. We hope to improve it further." Arya's cheeks warmed. She had once only known armor that moved with her will. Now she shared her heritage freely. It reached a wide courtyard. At its far end, engineers had set up a large energy emitter. Technicians busied themselves around consoles. Walker cleared his throat. "Arya, would you demonstrate how you envision the shield's response?" Arya stepped forward. She placed both hands over her heart, closing her eyes. She thought of the feeling of the old armor, how it sensed danger and enveloped her in strength. With a soft glow, the emitter pulsed. A grid of light formed around Arya and Walker. The energy rippled. "Under her guidance," Arya whispered, "expand focus on frontal arc, then shift to rear when attacked." The light shifted accordingly. Engineers watched readings spike on their consoles. Riley tapped her pad excitedly. "Readings show improvement in reaction time. By 30%, she said. Walker clapped his hands once. "Excellent," he said. "We will integrate this into our fleet designs." Arya opened her eyes, smiling at the humans who rallied around her idea. She felt a warm bond with these strangers who now felt like allies. After the demonstration, Arya joined a small group of diplomats in a stone hall. The walls were lined with tapestries that depicted human history, explorers, battles, and triumphs. Arya studied each scene. She traced her fingers along an image of a human fleet at peace. Her voice was soft as she spoke to the envoy from the Orion Coalition. "My people learned to trust in armor," Arya said.
Ow.
"But we forgot the power of friendship." The envoy's stern face softened. She nodded. "We would learn from you, Arya Solon," she replied. "Your voice carries wisdom." Arya bowed her head, humbled. At midday, Arya sat at a long table with engineers and marines for a shared meal. Bowls of stew and loaves of fresh bread passed down the line. Arya hesitated, then tore a piece of bread. She tasted it, the crust crisp and warm. She dipped it in stew, smiling at its rich flavor. Humans around her chatted easily about schedules and rumors of approaching fleets. Arya listened, absorbing their normal life. She joined in a conversation about music. She learned that humans used instruments to share feeling. She laughed as they described strange sounds called drums and violin. She vowed to ask for a simple flute lesson later. In the afternoon, Arya trained with Marines in hand-to-hand drills. They showed her stances and holds. Arya learned to block and counterattack with bare hands. Her movements were fluid and quick. Each strike felt precise, grown from both her past training and new human methods. A Marine sergeant saluted her when she executed a perfect throw. Arya bowed in respect, pride shining in her eyes. That evening, Arya returned to the observatory deck. The sky here was a swirl of violet and orange, a permanent simulation of planet sunset. She watched as two moons rose side by side. The sight reminded her of her lost home. Tears blurred her vision. Walker found her there, holding a cup of tea. He offered it to her. She accepted and wrapped her hands around the warm cup. He did not speak. He only stood beside her. Arya whispered, "I miss them." Walker placed a gentle hand on her back. "They would be proud," he said. Arya nodded, breathing deep. In the quiet night, Arya felt resolve firm in her heart. She would not let her parents' sacrifice be in vain. She would stand with these humans and allies to face the coming storm. The battle they won was only the first. Darker forces still lurked beyond the stars. The next morning, alarms cried through the fortress. Boots thundered on stone floors. Arya raced to the courtyard to see human and coalition ships lifting off. Walker joined her, face grave. "We have word that the Conqueror's legacy lives." "On," he said. Arya's heart tightened. "Another force?" she asked. Walker nodded. "Rumors of a fleet of raiders who seek to use your empire's lost weapons." Arya pressed her fist over her heart. "Then we must stop them," she declared. They boarded a sleek coalition cruiser. Arya sat at the tactical console, scanning sensor readouts. Outside, Alliance ships formed a line along the horizon. She guided them like pieces on a board, carving gaps and traps. Walker paced behind her. Trusting her every call, the cruiser jumped to hyperspace toward the raiders' coordinates. In the transit tunnel, Arya closed her eyes. She felt the hum of the engine beneath her feet. She recalled her childhood memories, laughter in shining halls, her parents' voices bidding her be brave. She let hope fill her. She would carry both human faith and archaeal wisdom into the coming fight. The cruiser emerged from hyperspace into a dark nebula. Sensor lights flickered. Ahead they saw them, sleek raider ships with sharp edges and black sails. They moved in formation, ready for war. Arya's pulse quickened. She spoke calmly into the com. "Prepare for battle. Shields on, full weapons ready." The commander's voice responded firm. Walker looked at Arya. "Lead the plan," he said. Arya nodded. She laid out their path. "We draw them here, among the nebula's gas clouds. Their sensors will falter. We strike swiftly, then fall back to our fleet." The commander agreed. Outside, the cruiser turned into the mist. Clouds of purple gas billowed past the viewport. Arya took her seat at the tactical station, her mind awakened with purpose. She whispered to the nebula, as if speaking to her old armor. "Protect us. Guide us." The cruiser glided forward, ready to test her plan. Arya's eyes shone with determination. This was her moment to prove that a girl once sealed in armor could now lead allies to victory. The mist closed in, and destiny awaited. Arya held her breath as the cruiser drifted deeper into the purple mist. Small lights blinked on the raider vessels ahead. They were waiting, confident in their own strength. Arya watched the sensor display. When their shields flickered, she gave the order. Fire now. The cruiser's guns boomed through the nebula. Energy bolts lanced outward, finding their marks in the raider formation. Alarms blared on enemy consoles as ships shuddered. The raiders scrambled to respond. Swift attack craft poured from their motherships, darting like hawks. Arya guided the cruiser through twisting tunnels of gas. She called out maneuvers to the helmsman. Turn 20 degrees starboard, then dive low. The cruiser obeyed, weaving between shifting clouds. Plasma bolts missed by inches as the ship's shields held strong. Walker stood behind Arya, watching in awe. He could see the tension in her shoulders, the steady focus in her eyes. She was in command, her voice calm and clear. She marked each target and prioritized threats. Focus on the fighters first, she said. Then we strike their command ship. The gunners obeyed. Small attack vessels exploded in puffs of gas and debris. The raider command ship loomed. Through the haze, its hull was sleek and black with red stripes that pulsed like warning lights. Arya studied its pattern. She remembered the battle plans of her empire, old tactics that exploited weak points in enemy armor. She told Walker, "We need to hit the engines at the aft vents." Walker nodded and relayed the order. Outside, the cruiser shifted power to heavy weapons. The forward batteries glowed bright. Arya counted down. 3, 2, 1. Fire. Twin beams of energy slashed through the nebula, cutting off part of the command ship's rear. The raider vessel rocked violently, systems failing. It drifted helplessly as pilots called out damage reports. The other raider ships hesitated. There. Formation wavered. Arya seized the moment. "Deploy fighters and follow-up volley," she commanded. Human and coalition fighters spilled from bays, swooping in on the stunned raiders. Massive ships found targets on their flanks. Arcs of energy and missile trails lit the dark mist. Each explosion sent shockwaves through the gas. Arya felt a rush of relief and pride as the enemy line broke. Some raider ships turned to flee, engines flaring as they escaped into the nebula. Walker watched the displays and gave thanks. "Allied fleet, this is Horizon. Push forward and finish them," he said. Arya transmitted the call to their fleet. In moments, Allied cruisers emerged, pounding the raiders with overwhelming force. The last raider command ship attempted to escape. Arya tracked its course. She saw a narrow gap between two asteroid clusters. "If we follow them, we can trap them," she said. A small squadron of human fighters and coalition ships closed in. They boxed the raider ship between clouds of rock. Under combined fire, it surrendered. Engines shut down. Crew transmissions begged for mercy. Arya exhaled, tense muscles relaxing. The nebula fell silent, except for the hum of Allied engines. She closed her eyes and let the victory wash over her. The threat was ended. The Conqueror's legacy, seeking to remake old weapons of war, was defeated. Arya remembered her parents' sacrifice and felt their presence in the stars. Days later, the Allied fleet gathered at the hidden fortress. Arya stood on a viewing platform beside Walker. Below them, ships repaired in dry docks. Engineers tested new shield systems inspired by Arya's designs. Diplomats from many worlds walked among the Marines. Laughter and conversation filled the air. A banner above the courtyard read, "Unity through trust." Arya looked at Walker. He smiled and offered his hand. She took it, grateful for their bond. She spoke softly. "I never thought I would find a home among humans." Walker squeezed her hand and said, "You belong here, Arya. We made this life together." Her heart swelled with emotion. That evening, Arya returned to the old stations. Armor fragments, now displayed in a museum hall on the fortress. She touched a piece of the dark metal. The lines inside still pulsed faintly, a reminder of her past life. She whispered, "Thank you for keeping me safe then, and for setting me free." The young child beside her asked questions. Arya knelt and spoke of hope, courage, and the power of friendship. In her quarters, Arya opened her journal one last time. She wrote of the battle in the nebula, of fear and triumph. She wrote of new friends and an uncertain future. She closed the book and placed it on her shelf. Then she looked out the viewport at the twin moons rising over the fortress. A gentle breeze stirred simulated leaves. Arya dressed in a simple tunic for the celebration ahead. The fortress courtyard glowed with lanterns. Music drifted through the air as dancers moved in graceful patterns. Arya joined the circle, her steps measured and confident. Humans and allies welcomed her with smiles. She felt strength in her heart, unburdened by armor. As the night deepened, Walker found Arya under a moonlit arch. He held a small box. Inside was a medallion bearing the imperial crest and the human emblem entwined. "For unity," he said. Arya accepted it, tears shining in her eyes. She placed it around her neck, a symbol of her new life. Arya looked at the stars above. She remembered the day she awoke in that silent station, sealed in armor she could not open. Now she stood free, surrounded by friends and allies. She had found trust, purpose, and love beyond the plates that once held her. Her journey among the stars had just begun, and she faced it with hope in her heart.